Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and taking the part of your day just to join Hip Hop Caucus and Think 100% podcast for this special watch party of the coolest show. My name is Jarel Clay. I'm the digital director here at Hip Hop Caucus, and I would love to just take a moment to ask you to like and love this broadcast and also share it with your friends and family across the country. Um, if you ever identified with Drake's, I'm the type to say a prayer and to go after what I prayed for, you are in for a treat tonight because that is exactly what these featured guests did in Memphis, Tennessee, as we fought the Byhalia pipeline from start to finish within its cancellation last month. MCAP, Memphis Community Against the Pipeline co-founders Justin Pearson, along with MCAP supporter and Memphis activist Miss Scottie Fitzgerald, gave a very, very touching and inspiring, or had a touching and inspiring chat with Rev Yearwood, the host of the coolest show. And without further ado, we'll be engaging with you all in the comments, either on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you're tuning in. And with that, we will start the program. Enjoy.
This is the coolest show brought to you by Hip Hop Caucus's Think 100%.
It's the coolest show you know, keep the culture connected. It's the coolest show you know, in your ear, yeah, respected. Expert level information, entertainment, education. Rev here, we got you covered as you hit your destination. Climate rules everything around me. Cream. For those who lost focus, close your eyes and just dream. Open your third eye, now the world is your off. Coolest show you know, it's the Hip Hop Caucus.
Hey everybody, this is Rev Yearwood, and I have, some amazing guests with me today for an amazing moment, but we're going to hear more about that in a second. I have with me from the great city of Memphis, Miss Scottie Fitzgerald. Miss Scottie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's so good to be with you today.
It's good to be here. I'm already on.
Oh man, it's a blessing. And also with me, who's now become actually a friend of the caucus, and that's definitely an amazing activist, Justin J. Pearson. Justin, how are you doing today? I know you must be feeling good.
Feeling fantastic, and so happy and excited to be here with y'all, and love all the work that you do and appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Well, actually, Justin, I'm gonna start with you because
Okay.
So for folks who are listening, this is a special episode because of it deals with the Byhalia connection pipeline, and there's a lot to that. And before I say that was finished, because a lot of times we go into and say it's a done deal, it's over, we won. A lot of times those companies, it's not quite the way. There's still some work to be done. So let me just actually start with this, because this is the coolest show, and I want to make sure I give folks the ability to introduce themselves. So Justin, for folks who don't know, Justin J. Pearson. Who is Justin J. Pearson?
Justin J. Pearson is somebody trying to do some good in the world, and I am really privileged and humbled and honored to serve. And in this work, I have been able to serve as co-founder of Memphis Community Against the Pipeline. From Memphis, from Westwood, one of the communities that would be most impacted, but I'm just somebody trying to serve people.
That's awesome. And who is Miss Scottie Fitzgerald?
The same here. I love God's people, and we are God's people. And God gave us gifts on the inside. And when we operate in our gifts, we're giving back. See, the gift of life produces the gifts. He put something deep inside of us. And when we find it and operate in that thing, everything works together like a puzzle. All the pieces just seem to fit. And one thing, now you know I have the gift of gab, so you have to stop me.
Well, no, you're here on the show, so you can talk, you can get to it, and But actually, I'm gonna come to you, Justin, and I want you to get ready to get this idea to start. I want you to give just kind of a 411 on what this whole thing was on the pipeline. Before think about that, I want to start with Miss Scottie first on this, what she was just saying. Miss Scottie, how important is faith in the fight?
Ooh, how important is faith? Without faith, it's impossible to please our Creator.
Mm.
And that's who I took this to first. See, we got theology, but I've done quite a bit of neology on.
Come on now, explain that. Some people that know what neology is now.
Neology is when you hit them knees and you get down and you say, God, we need you. The giant looks big. Goliath looked like a big dude. And we look like they called us the least. But he said, in my spirit, he said, the least becomes much when you put it in the Creator's hands. And look what we become. Look how big this is going to get. It's giving people the courage to fight back now, where they would have been thought of as the least. It's letting them know you have a voice. You don't just have to sit back. I don't care how much money doesn't overrule God.
Yeah.
The Creator created everything, and He created it for us. And we can just sit back and let somebody take what God has given us. That right there to me is a sin. When you sit back and say nothing. I know we've come under a lot of hardness, but as a little girl, I was an only child, and I just never knew when to shut up. My mother we had to go to the back of the bus. I sit at the front, and my mother never went to the back, and they were afraid I was going to say something really, because I would always think, and I did, and I was trying to figure out, here's some seats up here. That was that honest gift within me. I couldn't understand all the other stuff, and I've always been like that. One period in my life, I did get a little quiet. I was listening, though, because it's just some things you just almost just can't believe how another human being, it's just things you can't, that money is so faith greater than God. Faith has been my key, and it's unlocked the treasure chest. We have it. We have it on the inside.
Miss Scottie, I got to ask you one more. So I'm coming to you, Justin, for this 411, but Miss Scottie bringing some real wisdom right here. So I want to just ask her one more question on that topic. So Miss Scottie here, and on the Coolest Show, we have a lot of folks who listen in the environmental movement. A lot of them are not people of color. A lot of them are not people of faith. A lot of them may say they are agnostic, they atheist, all kind of things. And that's fine. Everybody can come how they need to come. But you're making a very important point here about the importance of faith to win a victory. And so for a person of color, as a Black woman, and you're bringing in history, you're bringing in what you've gone through. And I know Memphis a little bit. I mean, Memphis, obviously, folks know, was the place where Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. But Memphis has a lot of history. People don't know that Memphis is not just that. There's a lot of history in Memphis, particularly in the South, and what they've done. There's Black colleges there. There's all kind of greatness that's in Memphis. There's also a lot of problems in Memphis. I mean, just keeping it 100. But Miss Scottie, you're talking about faith, the faith of a mustard seed, the faith of if God be for you, who can be against you? That's kind of faith. So I just need you to tell folks that what you're saying here, from your perspective, your perch, this battle could not have been won without faith.
No, I don't believe it could. In fact, when they were contacting me and trying to strong arm me with paperwork, and then they sent this guy out named Sonny, and Sonny was on the phone, and I preached Sonny a nice message. And I told Sonny, you might have everybody else, but I have the one true Creator who created everybody else.
Come on now.
And the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Hey, come on.
They that dwell. And I told him this. I said, if God by some chance want a pipeline, it'll be. I said, and then it'll work for our good.
Come on.
Everything he does is for our good. I said, you talk to them, and I'm going to talk to him, and we'll see who comes out on the wing in the end.
Hey, come on now. Come on. Scottie Ray, we done went from podcast to church in just a few minutes. Come on, Miss Scottie.
Because we're beings having a human experience.
That's right. That's right. No, and that's important because what you're saying is critical because people don't understand just so much of how we've overcome. Ms. Scott, I'm gonna come back to you on
Okay.
this.
All right.
I'm gonna let you just catch a breath on that one because that was all right there. Justin, give us the 411 about how we got to this point to begin with. What was the beginning and what's the middle and now where are we?
Yes. Amen to everything Miss Scottie Fitzgerald shared. In the Black church, nobody but Jesus. What folks start to shout when you see things happen that couldn't have happened any other ways. And in this struggle, $2 billion crude oil pipeline companies, Valero Energy Corporation and Plains All American, decided that they would build a crude oil pipeline from Oklahoma down through Memphis and Mississippi to Cancer Alley in the Gulf of Mexico for export. They did this by calling the community the path of least resistance here in Memphis, a community that's 97% Black. Average income of folks $26,000 a year. It's also a place that has 4 times the cancer risk than the national average, has 17 toxic release inventory facilities, but they thought this was the path of least resistance. And so they planned to build this crude oil pipeline, and the community began to resist. And our movement was catalyzed last October 2020 when the pipeline company actually came to Memphis and met with local folks and explained how good their crude oil would be for us, despite the fact that we live on top of an aquifer that supplies all of our drinking water. And they were going to build right atop that. They were explaining how much money this would bring into the community, despite the fact that the project was only going to last 9 months, and they were building on top of the most seismically active area in the United States outside of California. They were explaining in October all of these things, but the community said no. We do not want this pipeline. And so from Boxtown and Westwood and Whitehaven and throughout the community, we began to rally and we began to organize and partner with folks across the country, including those like the Hip Hop Caucus, to resist, to get local leaders involved, to inform our community, to educate our community, then to activate our community for justice. And so from our United States congressmen to our mayors, we've been working and have worked to get people engaged in this struggle for environmental justice and the end of the environmental racism that's wreaked havoc on Southwest Memphis disproportionately for decades due to the history and legacy of redlining, all the way to the siting of industrial facilities in this particular zip code. Over the past several months, we've been fortunate that legislatively we've been crafting policies that would involve the zoning and siting of pipelines, which is work that we still have to do. And we were really fortunate that our county commission denied the sale of land to Byhalia Pipeline, and we built power in this city and in this county to resist this project. And it garnered attention from folks like Vice President Al Gore, who came to Memphis and rallied with us. Reverend Dr. William J. Barber of the Poor People's Campaign, who also came to Memphis and rallied with us. And we kept marching and we kept rallying, we kept meeting and demanding that our community's voice and our cry and our plea to stop this project be answered. And that is with a lot of faith in God and a belief in one another that we fought in courts. We fought in the court of public opinion. And this past weekend, we learned that the Byhalia connection pipeline was canceled. And that is a testament to the will and the work of hundreds of thousands of hands to get to this point.
So Justin, is it over? Is this done?
No, this is not over. It is not over until there are laws and legislation in place that protect communities from having to fight these fights. It isn't over until we know for sure people can have access to their land without the fear of eminent domain from private companies taking their property, particularly in this state where that's not allowed. And so we are actually just yesterday heard from Plains All American and Valero Energy Corporation that they're going to fight the local legislation that we're pushing forward this summer, even though their project's been canceled. And so that's letting us know that they're planning to do something else. And we're going to have to continue to work and continue to advocate and continue to make our necessary moves to protect our community and to protect our drinking water and protect those who are most vulnerable for what they try and do next.
Well, let me unpack a few things there on that. One, starting with these companies, do you think that the strategy behind that is because they don't want this to become a precedent.
Exactly. That's one of the primary drivers, I would say. We are in court regarding the cases, eminent domain cases. They non-suited Miss Scottie Fitzgerald, Mr. Clyde Robinson, and MCAP was actually allowed to intervene in those cases. And so our case against Byhalia was actually going forward. And we believe that they don't have the right to use eminent domain. And if a court was to agree with our opinion that they didn't have the right to use eminent domain, it would have serious ramifications for Plains All American and Valero, but also the fossil fuel industry as a whole. And they're also hoping that momentum dies down, that people stop caring about this issue, that attention gets drawn elsewhere. But the reality is we're not going anywhere. And we're going to be able to keep up pressure locally to protect ourselves so that we don't have to wait on something to happen at the state level. We don't have to wait for something to happen at the national level. And I do think that's going to be a paradigm shift in fights against pipelines into the future, that people aren't just going to be protesting to the president, but they're going to be near and connecting with their local officials who have a lot more power than they think they might have to stop projects like this.
Justin and Ms. Scottie, let me ask you both this question here. This is so, you know, one, I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for the community. I'm so happy for the people of Memphis. I'm just happy for this victory of really stopping the Byhalia connection pipeline. I want to get to what you were saying, Justin. This is really, again, this is for you and for Ms. Scottie to think about this. The path of least resistance. I want to start there because one of the things in this climate fight, what we're seeing is that we're seeing that those who are first and worst impacted by the climate crisis, by pollution, by dirty air, by dirty water, by putting pipelines are particularly poor people and people of color, Black, brown, indigenous people of color. And so you said something there in which that because of systemic racism throughout this country's history, that they then think that makes the people weak. Now we just heard Ms. Scottie break it down that we can fool you. Don't judge the book by the cover now, because you may be surprised by what you get. But this is my point here. Let's keep it 100. I know Memphis, and I want to talk about the coalition. Listen, I have worked in Memphis for literally, and I don't know how old you are, Justin. You're not that old. But I've been working in Memphis for a minute. I mean, for at least 17 years. I've been around to work in Memphis. I've worked in Memphis around issues of police brutality and gun violence. I worked in Memphis because it had one of the highest rates of mothers losing their babies at birth. I worked in Memphis for situations of just some good things, and I worked in Memphis for things that, man, is just ignorant. Just shake your head like, man, that's weird. Why are we acting like that? I worked in Memphis with folks who have done just all kind of things to fight back. But I've also worked in Memphis to see folks who ain't doing nothing. And this shocks me because somehow you pulled together the coalition of the willing. Somehow you got folk together, and that's not as easy. I need for folks who are in Detroit, New Orleans, Oakland, they may be wondering how in the world, because keeping it real, behind the scenes, it's not so easy to pull together these coalitions. So let's start there. What was the coalition? What were the good days for the coalition? What were the bad days for the coalition? And where is the coalition now?
Yeah, I merit a lot of our success to a few things. One, it's the spirit of Memphis, the spirit of people who fight injustice, right? We talk about Dr. King dying here. It was the spirit of Memphians who were fighting against unjust wages and unfair practices and unfair labor practices that brought him here, that drew him here. And that spirit has not died. And it lives in folks, as you can see, like Miss Scottie Fitzgerald, who took on multi-billion-dollar pipeline company before she had a lawyer saying, no, I'm not going to sell my land to you all. And so that spirit is a part of this movement and the struggle. And you are absolutely right. It's a coalition of the willing. Memphis is unique, and you know this, in the fact that we get everybody gets their water from the same place. And it's something about that universality of this struggle that was in danger and is still in danger because there are no protections that contributed to people who might otherwise not connect and be proximate to the problems happening in the Black neighborhood, proximate to the problems happening in the lower wealth neighborhood, that began to realize that if we don't advocate for the community that is being the most marginalized, we too will suffer. And that idea, right, which is oftentimes talked about philosophically, was very real and apparent in this issue. And I believe that it is going to last beyond this one to tackle some of the other problems that you mentioned there. The coalition began really with people in Boxtown, Westwood, galvanizing and saying, all right, let's meet together, let's talk together, let's figure this thing out over, Zooms every single day. Two more established organizations, Protect Our Aquifer, Southern Environmental Law Center, Breach Collective, actually our first coalition partner out of Portland, Oregon, said, how can we help? And then we had lawyers at Birch, Porter, and Johnson, which Ms. Scottie can speak to more than me, who helped us fight in the eminent domain cases. And that core group began to spread outwards, right? As we began to understand how significant this battle would be. It wouldn't just be local. We looked at the state level, there are permits at the state level, there are people at the state level who can pass legislation, but also who approve permits. And then there's the national level, national permits, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Congress, the White House, people to be getting involved. And so our coalition started with the small group of folks in Southwest Memphis and continue to grow and expand organizationally, right, to different partners at the local, regional, and national level, as you well know. But we never lost sort of our guiding point, our center to this, our North Star, if you will, which has always been, are we doing what is right for the people in Westwood? Is this decision what is right for the people in Boxtown? Are we making decisions that are proximate to the people who we know are being impacted the most in what Mustafa Santiago Ali calls the sacrifice zones? That's Black folk. That's poor folks who are tired of being beaten back and beaten down by these systems of injustice, because the truth of the matter is we're being killed, right? This pollution isn't just in the air, it's in our lungs, and we are dying, right? I've buried two grandmothers in their 60s from cancer who lived in Southwest Memphis. This is not philosophical. We're in a real struggle here for our lives, and we're able to elevate that struggle in a way that people who also care about their water, who do care more about community and are compassionate about community, started to listen. And so you can't talk about environmental injustice without talking about racial injustice, right? And we have interwoven that into the way that our coalition, and there are a lot of organizations led by all white folks or white led, that now have to talk about environmental racism. You can't not do it and be a part of this work. And we're really excited about as we pass this legislation, this environmental justice summer, is that our coalition is going to continue to move forward, and we're going to tackle issues from our strengths, but we're going to do it in a united front, leveraging the know-how, leveraging the experiences that we've had together to get more justice in Memphis, and hopefully replicate that in other places across the country too.
That's amazing. And I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to address this summer in a second. Miss Scottie, I want to come to you. I have a question for you. Were you around Memphis when Dr. King was assassinated? Were you around that time? Were you living someplace?
I was a teenager. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, definitely.
Okay. I was a teenager, and my mother told me not to go downtown when they were marching. I think I was about 13, 14. And the reason I'm laughing is because me and my little girlfriend, my friend, we grew up together, and we were kind of with the Afro and Black Power, and James Brown, say it loud, I'm Black, I'm proud, and so I was ready to go to war or whatever it would take. So we were going to go get into the march, and as we were going, one of our friends were knocked down with the policeman knocked him down on the ground, and her sister was holding his head in her lap. And there was so much going on, so much activity. I don't think they have any film of me down there, but my mother kind of chastised me. I told you, because she was nervous about me in his mouth. She used to tell me, well, if I thought it, if it come and see, but really God would give me what to say. I'm gonna put it that way. Even young, I always looked at the outside of the box. I never just settled for what was in the box, because I was thinking, why is it like this? Why do we have to go through this? We're human beings. Our blood is red, and our families love, and people, we got family that love us, and we love family, and we love each other. What is this about? And it just really you just don't know how it messed with me mentally. So if it's messing with me mentally, I'm almost 70. If it's messing with me mentally now, can you imagine what it's doing to our children? We want to know why they are taking up guns, why they are doing this. Some of them have been so wounded till they're really suffering PTSD. And we don't quite get it. Why would you want to kill each other? You got to value each other. Well, they don't know to love your neighbor, and you have to love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you'll shoot your neighbor. It's so much going on. You're telling a story where my friend was 16 years old, and they had his funeral at Mason Temple as well. And the policeman shot him in the stomach because he was up trying to find his mother. She was living in a high rise in the projects, and his mother and father had divorced, and he was trying to get to his mother, and the policeman shot him. He was one of the best people I knew. Shot him in his abdomen. He stood on the curb. Nobody, the ambulance wouldn't even come. He sit there and bled to death and died. His name was Larry Payne. And I'm talking about it now, but it hurt.
No, take it down.
It hurt. And you know, when you get angry, you're calling me the least when I know I'm the greatest. Muhammad Ali told you, I'm the greatest. He didn't lie. God created us that way. They could be the greatest too, but they bank on their money God. We have Almighty God. See, this is what I'm trying to say about spirit first and then human. We don't want to be so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good, because God said there is labor. If you believe, faith come with works, and works come with faith. So we got to get up and do something. There are some sacrifices that have to be made. And I realize that now. I was, 5 years old, and my dad spent a lot of time with me. And that's crucial to children. Do you know that? My dad spent a lot of time. We went to a store, and this man was hungry, and he stole a package of cheese. These people in that store called the policeman, and they beat him within an inch of his life in the back of the store for stealing cheese. And I saw it. Dad had tried to get me out so I wouldn't see this happening. And I was just asking questions loud. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And I was a little girl. And in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, who are you? Who's anybody to dehumanize anybody else? Who do you think you are? And those are the questions that still pop up in me. So when they told me that, and I went to the park, it's so much in between that, and my mind go fast and my lips would take it. But when I saw it, they had a meeting with the Byhalia, and I went down, and we had on masks, and Justin got up and spoke. And I tell you, I saw president all over him. I said, my God. And he told him, he said, we're not ignorant. We know what you're doing. We've done our homework. So you can't just sit down in here and just pat us on the head and give us just anything. We have facts here. And one of our people got up, and when I say our people, a person of our hue, because all people are not bad and all people are not good. She got up and made a statement. Well, we're going to get it anyway. It will happen. And when she did that, I really had to say a prayer. I said, how do you feel about taking these elderly people's property, our property? How do you feel about telling us that and people have struggled and done without just to have just that little piece of property? And you're going to say to us that y'all will do it. You're not even a fraction in the company. You might make 6 figures, but it's a low six. You're not even a fraction to these people. And you stand up and tell, to me, it was ugly.
So, Ms. Scott, let me break this down. You're saying something that's very, very, very important. And so first of all, thank you for that history. Because I think that, again, for folks who are listening, that our people have gone, sometimes when you think, God prepares us for the fight, even from when we are young. And even when we go through what we went through from what you went through, that's weren't here with Dr. King. But what our community went through in that process, and what you saw from people being just brutalized and going through from the back of the store up until now, it prepares you to stand up when they try to take your property. But what you're now getting to is very important, because in this process, you said there was 2 Black people, and you saying that it was actually 2 people of color, and you said one was on one side and one was on the other. If I'm making sure that's correct. And Justin spoke up. He was like, my goodness, he was speaking like a violin. He was so pretty, and he was power to the people. And on the other side, there's another folk who look like us. And so when I say that, and I bring that to this point, you were able to discern clearly who was with you and who was against you.
Oh, of course. Of course. And my phone is trying to do, I really kind of believe my phone has been tapped. But I'm going to tell you this. Yes, I could discern. I can hear God give us wisdom. Now, you can choose to be ignorant if you want to be. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can choose. It's a choice. If you want to stay ignorant and bury your head in the sand and pretend you don't see because you want a new Mercedes, or you need a new $1,500 purse, or you want a bigger house. We all want those things, and those things have been put here for us. God said, beloved, I would that you would have life and that more abundantly. And there is no sorrow with my blessings. But when you make that a priority and you don't care for his people and you don't think that you're hurting, you're talking about a lot of seniors too. Where's the respect for us? Where's the respect that you could even have a platform, that you could even have a job like that? It was times here in Memphis that you couldn't even, you're at the back of the bus, Handy Park. That park was so filthy, they wouldn't even clean it up, the city. You paying city tax. There was a time in my life I could see where Black people couldn't even go to Memphis State, and it's a state college, and we were paying taxes. Our parents were paying taxes, but we weren't allowed to go. We were kind of discriminated against, and you had to make a certain score on your ACT that was way over what they had. In other words, whatever you had, they did. We had to double it up and do it even better. We just have had so much. And God said we're the head and not the tail. And I'm not going to believe that all Black people are good and all white people are bad. This is a systematic racial move that's being made right here. This is a system. There are good people and there are bad people. There are people that will stand with you and there are some that won't. Dr. King, I loved him. He was a human being though. I loved him. And it's one song that he said, if I could touch somebody, if I can help somebody, then my living shall not be in vain. And that's the truth. If we can reach out, a 7-year-old child here shot the other day. I'm a grandmother, and I'm a nurturing grandmother. I'm not the party grandmother. I'm the old-fashioned grandmother. And I'm not putting anybody down. But I'm the kind that would take 10 of them in my arms. And if my arms could save them, if I could give them something, if I could give and we have, my husband and I have done this. We've gone and fed homeless. We've gone to do this. But you got to do it with a caring heart, not to be seen, not so that you can be fame and fortune. That's not what I'm after. I'm after seeing our people and my grandchildren, and perhaps when you have grandchildren, your grandchildren, go up and have something here for them. Leave them a legacy more than some lips, hips, and fingertips. They need something else other than that. We need to concentrate. And I told them at a meeting, God is not making any more land. So we need to hold on to what we have. See, they didn't anticipate that our people were going to be thinking about how to buy land. They thought that, we would just constantly sharecrop from the white guy, that we had to just live on minimum. All the time, my mother was working in Toledo, Ohio. She was packing back and saving and sending and paying for the property that her mother and father, so they wouldn't have to go back to that type of living. And let me tell you something, we are smart people. When we will use our gifts, we are smart. We're not dumb at all. The one thing that we had, and I love Black Moses, I love Harriet Tubman, I love her. The one thing that we had is that we have the ability to lead. We have the ability to get people together. God give us that strength and that mind. And so to put the mind out, why do you think the drugs was put in our people? Why do you think that they put this stuff out there and gave them something that was unnatural inside of them so that they could kill the man? Because if you kill the man and the head, the body will die. So if I can get your thoughts, if I can take your mind, if I can get your mind off of family, if I can set your mind in another area, don't you know that they know who you are? The people with money, and even the people, people are gonna suffer of all colors. That's the truth. Because it's white and black. It's about status. It's about who got what. And they got so much money that's investing in these shares, and we're not stupid. There's some Black people investing in this too. They got so much money, they could live off the interest of their money all the days of their life and would never touch the principal. How much money do you need? And if you kill if you take out everybody, your money won't mean much. I guess you will have to go out of space because they're getting their buckets ready. They already going out of space, going up in the trying to find. But God is there too. That's the surprise. With Dr. King, he came and he did what he was supposed to do. He did what he was assigned to do, and he operated in his gifts. I didn't understand him leaving so early and leaving his babies and his wife behind. We cried. I mean, my class, you just can't believe how much love it is. I took some courses here in my 50s, and a young girl was in one of the composition classes I was in. And the question was asked about civil disobedience, the Civil War, and the Civil Rights Act. Do you know, she thought that the Civil War was the war we're fighting now, which might be, but she didn't know. Coming out of the school system and did not know, and nobody put checks and balances behind anybody. Stuff just done like we're the least, not thought of as even a roach. That's how they thought of us, for real. Like we're just born to be ignorant and born to be, no, this is stuff you planned. This is the history you took from us. You didn't let a lot of us know who we are and whose we are. Do you know it took God to bring us this far? It took God to bring us this far. Who else could you attribute to it? I have one more thing I want to say. I'm talking, and I know I'm kind of going in a whole lot of directions, but I got essays and papers I could write on one, so we don't have time for all of this book I could put out here to you today. I want to say this. If God can take a rooster, put him on a house, or put him outside in the yard, he crows every single day at 6 a.m. He never misses a crow. Even in daylight saving time, he'll still crow at the same time every day. Who told the rooster to crow? This is for the agnostics and for those, the ones that don't believe that God is who he say he is. Who put an alarm clock inside the rooster for him to crow at the same time every day? How does he know to do that? Does he have a brain? Did he hear somebody talking about it? Did man do that? No. We are here on God's order. Each one teach one. Each one be responsible for one. I know some of them make us so mad we don't know what to do. And we think you just ain't, but that's where you have compassion. Have compassion for the ignorant and really the stupid. Have compassion for them.
Miss Scottie, I want to say this to you, and this is the reason. First of all, you made a lot of sense, and I think a lot of times our movements and our people are too smart for themselves, and they forget
You're right.
a lot, and we don't listen to wisdom. And even in the media, people want to get in front of the media, and media is for a minute and 2 seconds. The reason why we have this conversation so we can catch everything you just said, because folk need to go back and rewind and listen to, because the one thing that you have made clear is that on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, the dream did not die on the balcony.
No.
And the second thing you have made clear is that from that there's a spirit in our people to still resist injustice.
That's
And they're going to know the difference, no matter what color you are, what kind of suit you got on, what kind of car you drove,
right.
that we're going to know the difference if you either for us or you are against us. And the one thing you have made quite clear in this conversation, that if God be for you, nothing, and I do mean nothing, can be against you. So I just want to say thank you, because I think that the one thing in this conversation that is important for a lot of us, a lot of our folks, a lot of folks want to rely upon prestige and the academy and all that. And I done been around for a long time, Miss Scottie, and I'm gonna say this to you. I've seen a lot of these fights when people have had money on both sides and they have not won. The other side has won. I've been on these fights when folks have had all kind of stuff and they have not won. That's why this fight here in regards to the Byhalia connection pipeline is amazing, and why we have to examine it. And you just broken it down. You if folk missed it, then they missed it. They're gonna be like, well, the data says this, and you have broken it down. There is something powerful about people coming together, and there's something powerful about the power of faith. And when you put people power and faith power in the same bucket, and you put that together, then we can make the impossible happen. Yes. And that's what you're saying. And that's like, okay, so I can, because we can get into all the other stuff, but that's and we as a people need to have it. So Miss Scott, I just want to say thank you for that. And I do have one more question for you before we, this time went so fast, but I do have one. I want to get to Justin right here, because Justin said something the other day, Miss Scott. He said he got up there outside City Hall, and I got it here. He said, we're going to use that power and we're going to create justice right here in Memphis. So Brother Justin, what is next now? I mean, so you have these coalitions that you put together, these groups that oppose the pipeline. You have folk now like Miss Scottie. Actually, I don't know what's going to happen with folk who, I guess, who gave the money. Do they get to keep the money? If they gave the money up to, I don't know, all those situations. I mean, that's stuff we need to discuss. But Justin, you mentioned environmental justice summer, and so or freedom summer. I'm not, correct me which one it was, but what is next now? I mean, what is next? And you just heard. I know you just took in everything that Miss Scottie said. So as a young person, as a person of faith yourself, what is the one thing, actually, before you get to all the freedom summer part, Justin, what's the one thing that you have learned in this fight?
One thing.
You think, my brother. Go ahead. Wait.
Right. I mean, endless things. I've learned something new every day. But truly, it is so important to keep walking and keep trusting and keep believing, even when you don't know. I've never led a campaign against a pipeline company. Didn't know a lot of this legal stuff. Didn't know a lot of organizing things. But we did and do know God.
Yes,
And Black folk for centuries have had that one constant, right? That's been most consistent of our experience and our journey, whether it was our ancestors in cotton fields of Mississippi or rice paddies of South Carolina, whether it was, taking people off lynching trees here in Shelby County, or seeing the toll of mass incarceration in our communities, that the one consistent thing is there's a God that's with us. And truly, if God is for us, Valero and Plains can come against us.
Come on.
A status quo that calls us the path of least resistance and disinvests in our community can come against us. But God's with us. And so it's important that we keep walking and we keep trusting and keep believing, even in the most difficult moments. And I have learned to trust in God.
That's it.
And I have learned to believe more than I ever have before. And when you got folks like Miss Scottie Fitzgerald praying for you and praying with you,
Yes.
and you get texts from around the country and the world of people saying, I sent another one up for you, it gives you a little bit more wind at your back, because difficult days are guaranteed, because there was no end in sight. We're just ready to fight for however long we needed to. And learning to trust and to believe in spite of not knowing is a lesson, and has been a lesson in and of itself for me. And then now we just go and go to church, but then you think of old David, and he says, I believe that I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. That's what he says. I believe that I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And look at it. This people power. We had legal power, but we had God power. And the combination of these powerful things tapped into something spiritual that built a movement in Memphis and revived what some people thought was a dead dream, and will continue to push us forward as we create justice during this 2021 environmental justice summer in this city, because that spirit, it cannot be broken. It will not be bowed, nor will it be bent, but it will continue to catalyze the necessary work to turn that spiritual power into legislative power in this city.
Yes.
My. Listen, if you don't know how these good folks done beat that oil company, you ain't been listening. I'm going to close. I just want to say thank y'all. I'm going to start with you, Miss Scottie, on this question, then you, Justin, to clean this up here. Miss Scottie.
Yes.
Lord, 100 years from now, let me say, I ask this question actually a lot, and I'm gonna ask it to you and to Justin.
Okay.
100 years from now, and 21, none of us gonna be here on this side of Jordan. But what will be here will be the fact that those folks will not be dealing with the Byhalia connection pipeline. Those folks, those folks who 100 years from now, them babies who ain't even been born yet. There's generations upon generations.
Yes.
They gonna look back at a marker and be like, there was some folks in Memphis. There was Justin J. Pearson and Miss Scottie Fitzgerald and a whole bunch of other folks. And I don't even know, there's a picture right here of the brother with the afro. There's a picture of this beautiful woman, Miss Fitzgerald, and everybody else. And they was wearing masks for some reason. I'm not sure why they was wearing masks, but they was all wearing masks at that time out there doing their thing. But what I do know is that there's no pipeline. There was a pipeline that was in the pipeline, and there's no pipeline now. And they said it was because of this thing they believed in, and this force called God.
Yes.
Miss Scottie, 100 years from now, none of us gonna be here, but your work will be.
Thank God.
Your work will be. Your courage will be. Your love will still be here. How's that make you feel?
It makes me feel, and while you're talking, can I just put this verse in here?
Mm-hmm.
They that wait upon the Lord serve the Lord. Waiting means like person waiting a time. They that wait upon the Lord, he shall renew their strength, and they shall run, and they shall mount up with wings of eagles. Eagles don't flop around. They stretch their wings, and God puts that wind beneath their wings so that they can soar. And what this is saying to our people, you can soar. You don't have to flop around. You can soar. And he said, you'll run and not be weary. And I'm not going to let you get tired. And you'll walk and not faint. And we walk in the sun. Nobody knew the other day how much pain I was in. But God said, get up and walk. And I like what Justin just said. He said, you said, what's the plan? We'll walk. And God is not going to let us faint. And what I'm hoping for our people is they will latch on and finally come to the understanding, I'm somebody.
Yes.
God loves me. I'll have people that love me. I'm somebody. Yes. And I'm a force to be dealt with. We are trophies. And God got us in a trophy case so that we can shine. He knocked the dust and dirt off of us, and he said, shine for me now. I know it's going to be work. I sacrificed too. They talked about me too. They spit in my face too. They said I wasn't a king. Hey, God, but we are. We are sons of God, according to Galatians 3. And 26 and 27 on through, therefore, there is no more. There's no more gender, no more bond. We are the sons of God. And we are bad to the bone. When they got us from over the water there, they got the cream of the crop. They didn't just come for the one. Everybody think we just, no. That wasn't us. We are the chosen of God. Everything comes from, where it comes from, all colors. The best you can do is be beige. That's the lightest you can get from black. And the melanin was taken when they went over through in the Nordics, and the cold weather will not let that hormone create color. They are still our brothers and sisters. But if you read the first chapter of Songs of Solomon, he said, my sisters and my brothers despise me because the sun has kissed my skin. And he said, I am commonly. I am black but commonly. Read it and study to show yourself approved. There is messages, codes, all through the word of God. And I would trust you could get you a nice old Bible or a nice old Hebrew Bible, would be real nice, where you can read and find out. Third chapter of Revelation said his skin was as burnt brass. Take your brass something and go burn it and see what you get. See, God He is deep within us. He's in you. He's right now. That holy thing, Holy Ghost, that's the old folk. Holy Ghost is moving in you right now. You feel his spirit because what comes from the heart reaches the heart. 100 years from now. 100 years from now.
Yeah.
The groundwork has been laid. Do you mind if I do just one little snippet? I'm just a line.
Take your time. Take your time.
God gave me this when I died. I died before and they brought me back. And in a little while, I did come back. But the song he gave me was Hold On, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. It really is. In Jesus Christ's name.
My brother Justin, I'm gonna give you the last word.
Thank you.
Sorry. Sorry. God didn't bring us this far. He didn't bring us this far to leave us alone. He brought us way too far to give up now. We are on the right side of history.
Jesus.
We
of Nazareth
are doing God's work by pursuing justice for Black people, for people who have been left out, by bringing people from the periphery to the center. This is the work of justice. This is the work of God on planet Earth. And so we have to keep speaking. We have to keep preaching. We have to keep singing. We have to keep dancing. We got to keep shouting. We got to keep working. We got to keep marching. We got to keep rallying. We got to keep going, because this is the work that we are called to do. This is the price. As one person said, we're paying for our rent on earth, and it's worth it. It is worth it to be in this fight that we are called to be in. And we didn't choose to be beautiful and Black, but we are. We didn't choose to be marginalized and oppressed, but we are. And now we take the spirit that is within us, a spirit that cannot be destroyed, and we use it to do the work of God. We use it to do the work of justice for people who are most marginalized, for people who are most oppressed, for people who are being called the paths of least resistance instead of the paths of resilience. This is the work. And I am just fortunate to be a servant of it, to lift the voices of people in Boxtown, the Freedmen's community. Black folks were called property in this country. They called us property. Weren't considered people until the 1870 census. That's our reality. Right? We got to bring those voices, those histories, those spirits, those ancestors, and by our works, we redeem them and we humanize them against a status quo that would still say their lives meant nothing. And so, yeah, we're fighting to stop pipelines. Yeah, we're going to fight to end this terror and reign of pollution. And we do it as a holy sacrifice to God and to those generations and generations and generations and generations and generations that'll come after us.
That is Justin J. Pearson and Miss Scottie Fitzgerald, and I am Rev Yearwood, your host of The Coolest Show. Thank y'all so much.